Welcome back. Let's start talking about Chapter 5. In this chapter, what we're going to be doing is using files for large data sets. So basically, we're learning how to do input and output from files and from sources that are on the internet. So really what we're doing is addressing one of the issues that we raised in the last chapter, and that was that we were dealing with tiny little data sets. If we were trying to use real data, we would, using the methods that we had in the previous chapter, either typing all that data literally into our programs or interactively prompting the user to type in the items one at a time just isn't practical if you have hundreds or thousands or millions of pieces of data that you have to analyze. So what we're going to do is read from files instead. And our first approach will be to read text files from our local machine. So that means things that are on the same computer where the code is running. Now, it gets a little bit squishy here in our Colab environment because your local computer is the one you're typing on, and not even your code actually lives there, right? It lives on a computer out in the cloud someplace. So in this situation, we're talking about files that live on the same computer that the code is running on. Okay, so basically what we have to do is we have to open our files before we use them with the open function, and then close them after we're done using them with the close function. So we open first and then close, and there are details in table 5.1 and then an example piece of code in session 5.1 of your text. So let's pop over to session 5.1 really quick and look at that. All right, here we go. This is a session that will show us how to open and close a file. And there's going to be two options. One of them is the preferred option. But before we get to any of those, what we have to do first is have some data to operate with. So we have to get the data on the same computer where the code is. And I'll show you how to do that now. If we look at our module 5 on Canvas for the course, I've got a rainfall.txt file saved there. So I'm going to go ahead and click into that. This will show me a preview of that file, so I can see that it's the same file that's talked about in the text, just a series of cities and annual rainfall in inches. I'm going to go ahead and download that to my PC, and then tab back over to my Colab notebook. And here, over on the left, there's a File tab. I'm going to click that, and over here now, there will be an area that I can use to upload files to. Okay? And so to upload files, it's just like we upload them into our drive. If I go to our download section here, my rainfall.txt, if I click and drag that over here, it gets uploaded. And I get a reminder here that basically says when I end this session, that space goes away. So the files that we have there won't persist. They will be deleted every time we restart our working on our program. So for right now, we'll have to redrag that file up to the file system whenever we want to use it. Now that we have that done, we can take a look at it. So this would be how this would work in option 1. We would use our open statement here. The first parameter is the file name to open, rainfall.txt. That's the same name as over here. And the second parameter says that we're going to open it for reading. That's what the R says. That returns an object, which is a file object. So we need to save that with a variable name. So if this file or this line executes properly, then we can go ahead and start to use the contents of that file, and we'll look at how to do that shortly. But after we're done, we would do a close of the file ref. So file ref.close, and that just sort of puts away all the pieces that are used to access that particular file. So I can actually run this. It doesn't do anything at this point, but the fact that it opened the file and closed it without any issues tells me that it worked. Now the second one, this second method is actually the preferred method, a little more modern, and it would be phrased like this. We're going to use the word with, then our open statement, just like this, same as we had previously, as file ref. So file ref is still our file reference object. So what this does is it will try to open the file, and if it works, then the body of this block inside the with, just like the body of a for loop or the body of a function, all of that stuff would only happen if this file was successfully opened. If it wasn't opened, then nothing happens. It doesn't try to do anything with the file. Okay, so let's run this. I've got some dummy code just because the with needs to have a body to be syntactically correct. There we go. So now let's take a look at what this would look like if I try to open something that isn't there, or I spell my file name wrong or something like that. Okay, so let's say I've got a bad case of the 2020s and I type painfall instead of rainfall there. When I try to do my open, okay, I get a file not found error. Tells me that that wasn't found. Okay, and so then the program crashes. Let's try that over here with this with and see what happens in that situation. Okay, same thing. So basically, in this environment, I get an error that's going to crash my program. There will be a way that we'll look at maybe later on in the course that would allow us to catch that error. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and use this second option for opening our files. All right, so that's all for this video. In our next video, then we'll start looking at how to go ahead and process that data.